This podcast is sponsored by
Terraform Development is a rising engineering design and project management company located in Flagstaff, Arizona. Co-owners Eddie Kalnemtua and Stanford Lake started the company to bring economic-related projects to rural communities like the villages of the Hopi tribe. Some of the important work done by Terraform with the Hopi tribe are Tuwutsi Master Plan, KUII radio station site plan, Hopi Tribal Housing Authority residential homes, and numerous other nonprofit types projects on the Hopi tribe. Terraform can be reached at 928-864-5022 or visit their website at www.terra4orm.com. That's TERRA, the number 4, ORM.com. Also sponsored by 4X Studio is a Phoenix-based design and print communications company that specializes in brand messaging, marketing communications, and creative services for small businesses, nonprofits, tribal gaming, American Indian, and corporate clients nationwide. Their professional services include integrated brand systems, strategic design, identity illustration, print, ad campaign, assist management, packaging, and event design. 4X Studio is an American Indian owned and operated by Sean Quaney. For more information, visit 4xstudio.com. That's the number 4, xstudio.com. Good morning and welcome to Carl and J-Man Save the World podcast. My name is Carl and this is my best friend J-Man.
Greetings. This is the 5-star, 5-diamond chef with the Prince of No Air, Carlton Banks. I wanted to do my impression of you, Carl, because every time I do my introduction, I always notice that you give a second introduction as well.
I give the best introductions right now. So many of you listeners are probably wondering why J-Man sounds a little weird. That's because he's not here in the studio right now.
I don't sound weird, Carl. I sound like a man.
He's actually talking through a kid's phone right now. So it's like one of those Fisher-Price phones. So that's the reason why he sounds like that.
It's one of those Blackberries from back in the day. So today we're not in our home at Peace Academy Studios, but rather we're both recording from different places.
Yeah. Actually, I am recording from home, and J-Man is actually recording from Phoenix, I believe.
From the heart of Sunbelt territory, the U of A got an ass whipping of their lifetime. They all went back south. I think they're all in Mexico right now.
Let's just cool it for that section. Nobody really cares right now. So
if you're a Wildcat fan, if you're a guy that lives under a rock like Carl, I want to be I'm gonna be glowing today, glowing with maroon and gold.
And so I don't really care for ASU or Wildcat. So. Just as long as what is it? What's the community colleges make the playoffs or something? So
yeah, I don't think that they have territorial cups for Quidditch games, Carl. So I quite understand why you don't have any interest in some of the more popular things that a lot of us pay attention to.
So today is it's going to be a quick and short episode here, and that's because we're not in the studio and we're not in familiar territory. Although you are in familiar territory, it's just that we're not in the studio. So we're just going to make it quick and short and easy for you listeners out there.
And so today's a groundbreaking episode of the fact that, this is the first episode, right, Carl, that we're recording outside of the studio. And so it's going to be a little bit different today, because normally I'm able to, Carl and I are usually sitting right across the desk from one another. I can read his facial cues. I can see when he's about to fall sleep. I can see when his brain's thinking real hard about trying to articulate on some of the topics that we talked about. So this one's going to be a little bit different because I can't see what his face looks like right now. And to give him some of those cues that I normally do to make sure he does his job.
Yeah, and I'm not in there, whacking J-Man in the head because he's going off topic. So that's one.
He wishes he could whack me in the head.
So those are just several things that I miss if being in the studio right now. So.
But Carl, before we go on to our main topic of the podcast today, just like to do some shout out to the entire Carl and J-Man fan nation. We announced it on our social medias over the weekend, but our very first 2 episodes, Growing Up Red, Part 1 and Part 2, both have been downloaded over 1,000 times each. I think that's pretty remarkable considering, we're a little dirty Reds podcast way out in Hopi. And so, I'd like to thank you all that took the time to listen to those 2 episodes in particular. Maybe you haven't gotten a chance to listen to those episodes yet. If you're joining us, if you're a new listener for the very first time, that you can find those episodes on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah. So thank you for that, listeners, for all your support out there. And I really appreciate that. So thank you again, listeners, for making that happen for us. And without you, Carl and J-Man podcast show wouldn't be here today.
Contributed to us, whether that's giving us a 5-star review, giving us a sponsorship, or some donations. I think that's really where we've really been aided by you all.
Yeah, thank you again. So today's topic is going to be revolving around different stories, right?
Yeah. And so right now it's the winter time. I think that in most Hopi, out here in Hopi, that really it's this time where we hear a lot of different stories that they call Tuwutsi.
Yeah, so Tuwutsi is going to be the topic of it. And although, we're not going to be telling the traditional stories like, the coyote and the bluebird or the turtle and the coyote or something, but we're going to be talking about different things that happen in the community that revolves around those different stories.
We're not going to cover some of those more traditional stories that you hear, but although, I guess to give some context to some of the listeners who might not be familiar, but during this time, it is where a lot of Hopis are, at least traditionally, maybe way back when more so than now, that the elders of families would kind of be teaching these stories to the younger members of the family. And I think really because of this time of year where we did mention in our last episode that it is Gamlia during this time of period where most folks are staying indoors and especially at nighttime to where, there's kind of a lot of things going bump in the night. And so you stay inside and to spend some of that time. That's kind of how we pass the time with the reciting of some of these stories.
Yeah. And that is true. That is very, very true. So, Hopis believe that this is the earth is thin during this month, during Gamlia. And so when we do that, we respect the moon, we respect this time because of what happens outside. So thank you for sharing that with us. And it's very I'm thanking So and Kwa for teaching me about the respecting of Gamlia.
And then also too, it's like a lot of these stories that we're told, at least the traditional stories, that there's always some sort of underlying message behind it, some sort of point of light to be educated about through these stories. And a lot of them are kind of about mythical creatures. Some of them are historical accounts of our peoples and some of the deities and some of the spirits that we've come across and have had dealings with. And so basically that's kind of, what a lot of these stories are. And so if you've ever gotten to listen to them in the traditional ways, that, it's such an experience. And but I believe that there are literature out there now with some of the traditional Hopi stories. And books that you can find at your local bookman's or online at Amazon.
Yeah, so there is a one book that is very, very popular among storytellers. It's called Coyote Stories. I don't know who the author is, but if you go to Amazon and just say Hopi Coyote Stories, you'll find it on Amazon. I think it's like $13 for a book. So if you want to get a good read, go to Amazon.com and search Hopi Coyote Stories.
Yes. And so today we're not really going to be talking about those stories in particular, but I think what Carl and I really wanted to do was we wanted to go back and visit some of our old episodes and, kind of some of the highlighted points that a lot of the listeners were really excited to hear about or really interested in, that we want to take out some of those comments that we made in some of the episodes that we've had and kind of give a more detailed version of what those stories are.
Yeah. Yeah, so, sit back and relax, and we're going to go ahead and give you some of the insights of our past episodes and sort of just reiterate what we said in the past episodes.
And so Carl has been brave enough to go back to his college years when he went to Christie's for the very first time, and we're going to get a more detailed account of his visit to Christie's Cabaret.
So Christie's Cabaret, that was in episode what episode was that on?
I think it was one of our going to college episodes.
Oh, okay. All right. Something like that. So Christie's Cabaret, so every Hopi guy probably knows what Christie's Cabaret is, and I'm no stranger to that. I know many of you are probably wondering, like, wow, Carl has actually been to a strip club, and, it was weird going to there. And it was during my 21st birthday. And and when I was doing that, I was living in Tempe, and strangely enough, I was only 5 blocks away from Christie's when I was living there. And it was only 5 blocks up. I think that was on, what was that, Baseline? So Baseline was one of the not the hotels, but the apartment complex. The apartment complexes, yeah. And so, what my roommate, he said, I have to make sure that you go to a strip club on your 21st birthday. And being me as a country boy coming from the reservation, I didn't want to go. I didn't, for some reason, I just said, okay, yeah, I seen the movie Striptease. Okay. I know what that's like. So I don't need to see it in real life. But then he insisted on that I go with him. And so I said, okay, all right, let's go. So when we got to Christie's Cabaret on Baseline, he immediately told me, okay, turn off your cell phone. And I'm like, why? He's like, trust me, it's your birthday right now. People are going to wanting to call you. And so you don't want any distractions when we're in there. And I'm like, okay, all right. Okay, I'll turn on my cell phone. So I turn on my cell phone. And so we go inside, and it was weird. I felt like, anxious. I felt like an anxiety attack coming on because it was weird. I was like, this is something that Hopi shouldn't be doing right now. This is something that this is something that is going against my religion. Going against Hopi religion. And so
you didn't get a warm feeling in the bottom of your pants?
No, there was no warm feelings there. There were no warm feelings anywhere just yet. So then we go in, and there's this beautiful girl. She was in the foyer of the strip club there, and so she immediately took down our names, and she said, "Okay, well, give me your IDs." And my roommate, he said that, "Hey, this guy, it's his 21st birthday. Is there a special going on?" And she's like, "No, there's no special going on." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, well." And so then she said, there is actually a drink. You have to buy a drink in order to sit at the tables. And I'm like, okay, I'm old enough to buy a drink. So
they trying to order an iced tea.
So I ordered. I don't know what I ordered, but there was you had to order a drink. I don't know what I ordered, but you had to order a drink. And so we sit down, and we're sitting in the back, and they told us to not sit up front. This one guy, this bouncer guy, he said, okay, don't sit up in the front unless you're going to pay. And I'm like, going to pay what? And he said, oh, okay. Pay the strippers. Oh, okay. So I clearly remember, well, I know that there were about 3 stages. There are 3 stages that these girls dancing on, and we were sitting right by the door, kind of like, and I saw that because it was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday night, and I don't believe it was their best show on Tuesday nights. I'm pretty sure that they were saving. I'm pretty sure that they were saving the best girls on the weekends. But my birthday was on.
There for the D squad.
This was more like the F squad, sort of like, you know. So we walk in, and immediately there was a musky smell. The smells of it were just really rank, you know, and it's like, this smells weird in here. It smells like cocoa butter and mixture of cocoa butter and sweat with a little bit of strawberry perfume mixed in. And it was weird, and the floors, it felt like the floors were like springy or something, and maybe because you know, there was a lot of sweat going on the floors. I don't know what was going on, but we sat down, and there was this nice girl that in a bunny costume, like, you know, the Playboy bunny costume. So she comes up and she takes our order, and so I don't know what I ordered, and he orders something different, and so we're there waiting for our drinks, and then finally one of the girls comes out from behind like these little walls, and so the music starts, and we're like, okay, get ready now, and we're the guy, you know, my roommate's all up in arms, and he's like, all right, you're gonna see some action, and I'm like, all right,
he was
cool.
all pumped up.
He was all pumped up, and I was scared. I was like, am I supposed to be seeing these kind of things like this? Because, you know, I'm Hopi, you know, so won't approve of them, you know. Oh my God, you know. So I clearly remember one girl. She was wearing the camouflage. She was wearing the camouflage. And she was wearing the camouflage bikini. And so I said, okay, cool. She's dancing, and you could clearly see the scars on her. And, you know, she was probably like, you know, their seat warmer or the bench warmer girl, you know. And so we immediately
got hurt, and they had to call her up.
So I was like, man, they probably made a special request for Carl on his birthday, the bench warmers, you know, the bench warmer girls. So she started dancing and stuff like that, and she started to take off her clothes and everything, and it was weird, and I'm like, oh my God, it's not doing anything for me. This is nothing like striptease here. You know, this is not Demi Moore style. This is nothing like that. And, you know, my roommate was there. You know, he was dancing. He was having a good time. He was like, you know, forget the scars, man. Forget the scars. And he's like, and I'm like, that girl is not pretty at all. He's like, and, you know, the other thing that I seen was this one guy, and he, you know, he's clearly had been there every single day. I'm pretty sure he has been there every single day. And he was wearing gray sweatpants and everything, and he's wearing a trench coat, and he was all sweaty. And, you know, he was throwing money at her, and he was weird. And it was like, it wasn't what I pictured as going to a strip club. And so, and he's like, okay, so he asked the waitress, how much is it to go back into one of the private rooms? And so the waitress said that it's about $150 per hour. And I'm like, I don't even make that much. So and Kwan don't give me that much allowance, you know? And so it was weird. And so we said, we're not going to do that. We'll just watch. So we watched a couple of girls, and that was about it. And when we went out, when we got out of the strip club, it was weird. And he's like, oh yeah, it felt really weird too, because I've been down here on a Saturday and it was rocking, and today was not today, today was not the best day. And he was like, I'm sorry, man, we got to come back again. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It was a good birthday anyway. So when we got out of the strip club, I turned on my phone and I had 15 missed calls. And guess who it was from? It was from Seoul and Kwa. And so they were wanting to wish me a happy birthday. And so Seoul immediately tried to call me 15 times. And so I immediately called her back in the parking lot, and she immediately asks me, where have you been? I was trying to call you, and it's like, oh man, I got to think of an excuse right now. I can't tell her that I was in a strip club. I was at the Waffle House, so I was at the Waffle House, and we don't get good reception over there. So, sorry I missed your call. So she's like, well, happy birthday. And I'm like, yeah, it was an okay birthday. It was bench warmer style. So
it was bench warmer Tuesday.
Bench warmer Tuesday. But anyway, that was the extent of my strip club experience.
Well, that explains a lot, Carl. Now I kind of got a good idea of why it is that you're the way that you are.
Yeah, so it's nothing. I respect women, and I respect I respect So and Kwa, and so it was like that upbringing that kind of stopped me. I wasn't like the jerk kind of deal or anything like that.
You weren't like the rest of us guys, huh?
No, I wasn't a dog or anything. So that was one thing that kind of held me back. So.
That's what I wanted to ask you when you said that the girl was dancing and it did nothing for you. So I guess you weren't scared or terrified, questioning your sexuality, the fact that you didn't get aroused or something like that.
Well, believe me, it's kind of hard to do that when you're with a group of guys, and especially with your friend sitting right next to you, and Sweaty Bob in the front with his trench coat on. I think it's stage fright by then. So
you never had to perform in public before, or never had that opportunity.
No. I Demi Moore's striptease movie was the kicker for me. So
she set a pretty high bar then. Huh?
She set the pretty high bar. So.
Well, thank you, Carl, for sharing that with our audience. When I thought the idea of because I said the story before, you told me this story off air, and just thinking about this theme of Tuwutsi and what type of stories could he tell, and I thought, I wonder if Carl would be willing to share that longer version of the story, and I was actually kind of surprised that you agreed to do it. So thank you, Carl, for that.
You're most welcome. And it's just something that you don't see every day. And I'm pretty sure that Hopi men or Hopi boys that don't get to experience anything like that. So that was just one thing that I experienced, and from a Hopi perspective view. So.
Awesome. And so I guess it's my turn to jump into the storytelling chair. And then also, Carl, I wanted to tell you that before you started talking about Christie, you forgot to say Alexa.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That goes with every storytelling.
Alexa, I went to Christie.
I'm going to make that into a shirt, so...
Strong Ones is dedicated to exposing cultural traditions of running that exist within many cultures and tribes worldwide through running apparel. Strong Ones is an individually owned business supporting cultural running traditions and supporting local organizations within the Hopi Reservation. They can be found at strongones.myshopify.com. Again, that's strongones.myshopify.com. They are also on Facebook at Strong Ones 15.
Oh well, one of the things that I think a lot of people who know me fairly well what they're quite interested about in some of my experiences is that I do share a lot about one particular experience that I've had in college, and that was joining a fraternity. And so if you know me, that you know that I'm a part of a fraternity, which I guess the concept of the fraternity is kind of pretty foreign to Hopi. Wouldn't you say, Carl?
Yeah, I would say so.
Because I think that, when you think about fraternities and sororities, when we talk about Greek life, I think that for most folks, that it's pretty stereotyped in a lot of the movies. So you think about movies like Old School or Animal House or some of these, other movies that kind of show the fraternities and sororities as, these party people in college having these wild parties and, kind of just having these kind of weird practices, I guess you could say, of some of the things that we do. And so when I was attending Arizona State University in my college years during my undergrad, that I was approached with an opportunity to join a fraternity, and that's something that I chose to do. And so it was a real interesting experience. And, being a Res kid from the Res, not knowing a whole lot about Greek life and not truly understanding what a fraternity or sorority is. And, for some information for the listeners, that fraternity is the Greek organization for the guys. And the sorority is the Greek organization for the girls. And so oftentimes you hear people coming up to me like, "You're in the sorority, right?" I'm like, "No, I'm not in the sorority. I'm in a fraternity." And, so there's kind of one of the differentiating terms. And so, but when I guess because when I first went to college, that I kind of had no desire to join a fraternity. I like everybody else, just kind of knew what I learned from the movies. That's kind of what Greek life was. And then one of my best friends, he went to ASU probably about 2 years ahead of by the time that I got there. And then he ended up joining the fraternity. Yeah. And I kind of remember my response to him telling me that he joined the fraternity. I was kind of laughing. I was like, "You joined the fraternity?" Kind of like how everybody else's response is to me. Every time I tell them that I'm in a fraternity, it's like, "What do you guys do? Do you guys slap each other in the ass with the paddles, or you guys have these wild parties, or kind of all of that stuff that we think that we know about Greek life?"
Yeah.
And so he joined his fraternity, and then by the time I got to ASU, I don't think that I was just mostly focused on my schooling, on my coursework and my education. So I didn't even really pay attention to any of the other organizations that were available to join, because at that time I was working full time, I was going to school full time, so I really felt that I didn't have the time to add additional to be a part of another organization to add to all of the other stuff that I had to do. So I kind of passed on it. But I did meet one person in particular. And I'd like to give him a shout out. I met my good buddy. His name's Darius. He's actually a native person. He's from the Gila River Indian community out here in the valley. And so I met him through one of my programs, one of my classes that I was taking. And so he was the one that was kind of telling me about fraternities and sororities, because me and a couple of other friends decided that they were going to bring a new fraternity to ASU. And so he was kind of, talking to me about it and see if I was interested. And, I kind of didn't have any interest in it, because, I felt like that it was going to be additional time commitments that I didn't think that I really had. So I kind of declined on it. Yeah. And so he went off and, did the whole thing. And then next thing they brought this new fraternity to ASU. And so, he kept talking to me about it, because they went and did it. They brought this brand new fraternity to ASU. And so he kind of introduced me to the fraternity brothers and wanted to see how I would get along with them. And so, I met them, and they're really cool. They're pretty cool dudes. They were kind of real goofy, I guess, in a way, because then, you think about how we are on the reservation, that a lot of us are real introverts, or that, we're real kind of within this, in our own comfort zone. Yeah. And we don't really kind of express ourselves kind of I guess, in a more expressive way. But these guys like, and so I think that that's kind of what really, I guess, what I found really admirable is the fact that, they were really expressive. And, I guess to kind of be stereotypical, you watch like some of these black movies, some of the black guys are kind of loud and really talkative, but, that's how they were. But, it was so different for me. It was so different for me because then, growing up on the reservation for a majority of my younger life, to just being around natives and to just being within that native cultural norms of, I guess we're not necessarily really like that, where we're loud and, talkative in that manner. And then to being put into that type of position. So it was different to me. And I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. So then I decided that, I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to join the fraternity.
Yeah.
And so, they're real happy to hear it. But then, then they kind of had this side conversation with me. And then I think this is where it kind of goes back to that stereotypical knowledge of what Greek life is that that there's a pledging process. So I had to pledge.
Yeah.
I had to go through this process. It's just so funny because you see it on media everywhere. It's like you see it on movies or you see it on TV shows where they're depicting what pledging is like for Greek life. And so you think about some of these movies to where people are getting slapped on the ass with a paddle. Or I remember, I don't know if you remember the old Saved by the Bell show, but there was this Saved by the Bell, the college series that they had. And, they had to go through that whole process because they were trying to get into a fraternity team. Just everywhere, you see it everywhere. But I guess, and I guess that's really the thing with this particular fraternity that I joined. And I think the thing that I really liked about it was that the whole pledging process and what we went through, that a lot of that actually had a lot of commonalities with how Hopi is. Because then you think about Hopi, and you think about like some of our societies, right?
Yeah.
And so some of these societies, when you want to go into like Woodson or to Soyalan or into the Palomwe society, that there's a quote unquote pledging process that you have to go through as well. That you have to endure certain things. And I guess in a way, that's your way of earning the knowledge of what that society holds. And then once you complete that Wenkia process, I guess, of being Wenkia into those societies, then you truly earn the knowledge that those societies hold. And then you truly earn the title of being a part of that
society,
of that group,
that
society.
Yeah.
And so this particular fraternity that I joined, and see like that, like you don't even really say join, and this fraternity that I crossed into had similar perspectives of what it meant for their pledging process. Like their pledging process was secret. And so everything that we did within that pledging process, we weren't allowed to tell anybody. And so at ASU, that there's kind of a number of fraternity and sorority, and that some of these fraternity and sororities kind of belong into these subgroups, almost like a clanship, like how our clans, like I'm Corn Clan, for example, but I'm a part of this subgroup to where the other clans, the Water Clan, and I think that Cloud Clan is one of them too, maybe a few others. But in the sorority fraternity life at ASU, you had the large group that was called the ISC, which was, I guess, the stereotypical fraternities that you saw on TV, the white boy fraternity. If I can turn off my PC button for a bit, but that's kind of what it was. And so they were kind of the representation of what you saw on TV, these wild parties, and all of this other crazy stuff that you see. But the group that we belonged to, belonged to this group called MCG, the Multicultural Greek Organization.
Uh-huh.
And so within our subgroup of this MCG, there were other fraternity sororities that were also multicultural, meaning that, they kind of accepted other people outside of a particular culture, but they actually had other groups that were kind of mostly focused on a particular culture, but they were always accepting of other people, even if you aren't from that culture. But the Black African Greek organizations was one that particularly focused on the African community, and it was in those the Black Greek organizations, the fraternities and sororities. That's where you would see things like the movie Drumline. Do you remember the movie Drumline?
Yeah.
Where that girl was in that sorority, and then they start doing their stepping in a scene in the movie, and so that's what that organization is. Or that's what those organizations, that was a part of kind of what they focused on. And then they had one too that was specific for Latino Americans. And so, but it was really neat though, because then like that, you think about some of these things that we did as a Greek organization that you never really got a chance to see out on the reservation. And so if you go on YouTube, listeners, and if you Google search, Strolling is something that we did, and that was kind of similar to that, to Drumline, or to there was another movie too that had to do with Stomp the Yard, Stomp the Yard, and so that was something that I always kind of compared it to. But then when I did make this decision to go into the fraternity, that the pledging process was secret, and that we did learn information about the particular organization that the organization saw as being secret too. That it was knowledge that was only privy to brothers who went and crossed through the organization. And so, I went through the process. I crossed, which is the term for completing the process. I crossed. And so, lo and behold, spring of 2011, I became a full-fledged brother of Epsilon Sigma Rho Multicultural Fraternity Incorporated. It's like a big shout out to all my brothers, to all my ESRO brothers worldwide. They're road dogs, something that I'm very proud of. And so basically, that's kind of my story. But it's I guess the cool thing about it, though, that I really like the fact is that when you do go Greek, that you meet so many people that you probably wouldn't have met otherwise, because not only do you get real familiar with the people that are in your organization, that you get familiar with other people in other Greek organizations, and then you get to learn about them, learn about who they are. And like that, if you're a young person right now listening to the podcast about to go into college, I would highly suggest, at least looking into going Greek, because man, you meet all kinds of people, and man, it was such a good experience. And like that, I got to stroll. I learned how to stroll. I learned how to step. And so I really got to learn how to stomp the yard.
Well, I never been to a fraternity or any of those parties before. Although we were invited once before at ASU. We were invited once from the college that I was at. We were invited from there, and but the parties out there, they start at around 11, 12 o'clock, something like that. Yeah, so I was like, and I was already in my footy pajamas and watching Disney Aladdin on our TV.
This was before the Disney Plus app.
This was before Disney Plus app. This was before anything like that. So Netflix only had the DVDs to rent.
Oh man, but I guess the cool thing though is that, like I mentioned before, is that there's some of these Greek organizations that are specific to a particular culture. They even have native. They had a native sorority and a native fraternity. So shout out to the sisters of Alpha Pi Omega, and to the brothers of Phi Sigma Nu.
Well, that's great. I shout out to them as well too. Congratulations on becoming one of the fraternity brothers.
Thank you. And so that's my story on that. But I think that kind of one of the other topics that Carl and I wanted to cover on this Tuwutsi team podcast is kind of our stories related to what's been going on with the pandemic.
Oh yeah. The pandemic part of it, it's crazy. I mean, there are a lot of people that are getting sick on the Hopi reservation, but the reality about it is that they're not showing who gotten well from the pandemic or from this COVID. So that's one thing. I think it's just more of a scare tactic, and it's doing a good job about it. But when you want real numbers, you want to see how many people recovered from this COVID. You want to have some sort of like good feeling with this sickness here, because right now everybody's all in a slump and everybody's all in this gray spot. So we're just trying to live day by day and how this COVID is working right now.
So when this whole pandemic started, Carl, did you ever get into a position where you're almost out of toilet paper?
Actually, yes. Yes, I was in that position. See, before the pandemic hit, I used to be I used to have a subscription with this company called Who Gives a Crap, and it's a toilet paper company called Who Gives a Crap. So if you want good quality toilet paper, go to whogivesacrap.com, and it's not sponsored by Who Gives a Crap. So go to them, and we had a 3-month subscription. So every 3 months they would send us a box of toilet paper, and we've been getting it like crazy. And so she said, "Hey, why don't you just stop that toilet from coming for a bit?" And this was before the pandemic hit. And so I said, "Okay, well, I'll stop it for a bit." And we didn't know that, behind the people, or people in general are going to get crazy and buy all the toilet paper. We didn't know about that. So when that hit, all of our toilet paper started running out, because So'o would start handing toilet paper out to people who really needed it. And I'm like, So'o, don't be doing that. I don't have a subscription anymore. We can't afford to give away toilet paper, I said. And so she's like, while they need it the most. And so I was like, well, we need it the most too. So that was one thing that kind of came out from it, is that, yeah, we were on the verge of losing a lot of toilet paper during this pandemic.
So you almost have to go back to the old ways and start using the luckily out at the outhouse.
Yeah, started using the corn cobs, the sung, the rocks.
So you have to go to the cliffs and try to get all those cobs that people were throwing away before.
Yep, that's true. So I had to make your own toilet paper. Just ruffle up some newspaper and hope that it's soft.
But when I recollect back on those earlier, I guess when it really first hit, I feel like that the community kind of didn't change a whole lot at first, because I remember you could still go to the K-Town store and still pick up some toilet paper. And then finally, that whole scare buying finally reached us. And so it was kind of difficult to get some of those products, the toilet paper, the paper towels. I think like the wipes and the sanitizing wipes are probably the biggest things that people were going crazy for out here. But I guess it's kind of really interesting, and what makes it really interesting is Facebook. And it's like, how would you say that the Hopi people have reacted to COVID based on what you've seen on Facebook?
Well, so far, I mean, people are right now people are handling it okay. But before, when it started, I mean, there were like people going nuts over different things. They were like, the businesses are going to be closing. They had a Black Friday sale at the Haute Villa store, and they're like, oh, business is going to be closing. And, the whole pandemic started happening on Hopi Reservation, even though we were kept kind of secluded and safe in that way. But now that the numbers you see on the Hopi Tituveni or seen on Facebook are kind of rising, and it is giving us a huge scare in that way too, because there are people that are sick with this COVID on Hopi.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that is kind of one of the scary things that's going on. And I guess there's probably some stuff to talk about on kind of the darker side of what's going on, but definitely I don't think that's something that either you or I kind of want to cover.
Oh no,
that,
no.
We want for you all to leave and walk away from this podcast with a happy heart and, with blessings to look forward to on the next day. But there's been some, I guess, kind of real goofy stuff going on there as a result of the pandemic, right? And I think that a lot of it is kind of built up around the not so secret fact that the Hopi tribe was awarded something like $80 million, I think, from the federal government.
Yeah.
To help them battle the pandemic and battle, everything that's come with it. And I think that, what's kind of gotten people really riled up is that the hardship checks that everybody's supposed to be getting. And so in regards to that, what are some of the things that you've seen on social media?
Well, besides the tribe getting the $80 million and trying to distribute all that money, Hopi hasn't really had huge hardships. I mean, we have like these food distributions that happen in different villages. And once that happens, I mean, people complain about what they get in these food distributions. They don't get, how come she got a better looking, can of fruit than I do? How come I got a different brand of canned fruit than she does? All of those different things. And we're not appreciative of that because we think that when it's free, we're given something better. We're given something that, that's top of the line kind of deal. So, I mean, it's for us to survive, but yet people don't see it that way. So we think that free means better kind of deal. So.
To go back on your comment that you made during our Thanksgiving episode when I asked you, traditionally, when are Hopi thankful? And you said that was never thankful. So, it's kind of funny with that, like, with the distributions that they've been having, because they've been having a lot of them out on Hopi. And my mom, she goes to every single distribution. I tell her, Mom, quit going to those distributions. Just you and Dad living at home. What are you doing with all this food that you're getting from all these distributions?
Yeah.
And what she does with it is she brings it over to our house. She brings it over to my sister, and so we've been stockpiled with onions for the whole time that we've been on lockdown. And so I think the Red's famous wife is, trying to figure out how to make onions 10 ways, and trying to figure out how to use them so that they don't go bacon. But I think that, for some, and I guess for me, I think about it and it's like, well, I'm pretty fortunate because both myself and the Red's famous wife, we do have jobs. And so, we haven't really been affected in that area of our lives. And so, we've continued to be able to have the finances to buy the things that we need to survive, our groceries and etc. But, I imagine that there are people out there that probably really do appreciate these food boxes that they can get.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There are a bunch of people that do appreciate the food boxes. But there are some people that just don't appreciate what's been given to them, thinking that they're entitled to get more than what they receive.
This paid sponsorship was paid for by Justin Villarreal.
Hey, Tom here with Hopi Relief. Hopi Relief is a nonprofit organization based down here in the Valley, where we are providing much-needed supplies to the Hopi Reservation during this COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. Please visit HopiRelief.org and find out how you can get involved. Hopi Relief is also an Arizona-recognized charitable tax organization. And please, visit us December 1st on Giving Tuesday. Thank you.
And so those are definitely some tales from the dark side of what's going on with the pandemic. And then I think the other thing, like I mentioned before, that is getting people really riled up is the fact that the tribe has this $80 million. And you see a lot of what people are posting online. I've seen so many posts in regards to the money. I've seen people say things like the Hopi tribe doesn't care about the people. They're just using this $80 million to get themselves rich. Or, you see these other comments like, why doesn't the tribe put that money into building new roads and building some of these other things to be able to help Hopi? And so I think when I see things like that, you really do understand that, a lot of our people don't truly understand what this process is of getting funding from the government and how that funding is supposed to be spent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of regulations that have to deal with getting funding from the government, especially when you're dealing with free money that's coming in.
Like, because I think that people think like it's a blank check, or that the federal government is backing up this Brinks truck with these large bags with dollar signs on it, like you see from the kids cartoon shows. But it really isn't that. That all of this money that the tribe gets, it has to be used for things that are COVID related. And so you can't just use it to, let's buy an ice cream truck. I think that we should buy ice cream trucks to help with our economic development during the summertime. Or we should use it to build something like that, roads or, our electricity. If you have to prove that whatever you're purchasing is going to be related towards COVID. And so that's what that $80 million is earmarked for. And so, really with what you see on social media, that a lot of our people don't understand that. And what you also really see, unfortunately, is that our society is very reactive versus being proactive. And so you hear a lot of complaints, whether that's about the distributions or whether it's about the hardship check. You hear a lot of complaints directed towards the tribe. You hear a lot of complaints directed towards different areas. But, for both you and I, we both, with the work that we do, without saying what we do, that, we do see that there are efforts from folks that are trying to help the people. Providing whether it's the food drive or providing other programming to be able to help with what's going on with the pandemic. But I guess, us red people being, the way that we are, that's kind of what you see. You see a lot of complaining, a lot of anger on social media. And it's so interesting. It's so crazy to me.
Yeah. So, like I said out there, just people who listen to this, please be appreciative of your whatever is given to you. Make sure that you stay safe. Make sure that you're practicing all the CDC guidelines. Try not to get sick. Trying to be proactive in the community, and just making sure that you're an overall a person that is helpful to one another.
Definitely. And so I think that we're getting close to time, right, Carl?
Yeah. So I think we're about that time. So if you want to go ahead and let's head out of here. So.
Okay, but real quick before we do that, just want to give another shout out to our super fans. Give a shout out to Michelle Holden, Rachel Reinhardt, Noel Koyahoma, our boy Miller Kawanyama, Joyce Hamilton, and we have a new super fan that I'd like to welcome to the party. A big shout out to Liera Thompson, who just joined our 30-pack donor level contribution to the podcast. Of course, I'd like to shout out to our sponsors again, to Strong One, 4X Studios, to our boy Justin Villarreal, and to Terraform Development.
Yeah, and thank you all for supporting the podcast here. Yes, it does take money to produce the podcast here, so thank you again for supporting us. The podcast, yes, this does require money for us to make. Also, there is a little thing called buymeacoffee.com/CJ podcast. If you go there, you can go ahead and just buy us a cup of coffee, which is $1, I believe. Buy 2 cups of coffee, $2, and just support us that way. And if you can't support us that way, go to Spotify, Apple, iTunes, give us a 5-star review or give us a 5-star rating, and we'll be happy from there.
Yes, give us a 5-star ratings. And if you don't already follow us on our social media accounts, you can find us on Facebook at Carl and J-Man, on Instagram at Carl and J-Man _podcast, and on Twitter at Carl and J-Man.
Well, thank you again for listening to Carl and J-Man Save the World podcast. My name is Carl, and this is my best friend, J-Man.
So long. Bye.